What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We have another episode of Champion Mindset, Finding the Way. I'm Tommy Stiles. This is the Muscle Media Network. With me again, Dom Cardone. Dom, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Good, just another day. How are you today?
Good, man. First episode did pretty well. Got some good feedback. I think people really dig the topic we talked about and kind of the overall purpose of the mission that we're trying to do, just talking about mindset and how to sharpen yours towards pursuing excellence in all things. So today we kind of had some feedback on the YouTube from the first episode, self-belief, generating more self-belief in yourself. So I think this is something I see a lot with coaching. And just in general, I think when someone starts something, their belief in themselves for most people is usually low. And that's half the battle, is just trying at something that you might suck at until you don't suck anymore. So I wanted to ask you, self-belief, is it something you've always had in yourself? Has it come natural for you? So talk about that and we'll go from there.
I mean, I've had that since I was a kid. So that was one thing. I mean, as long as I can remember, no matter what I did, even if it was the smallest thing as a child, all the way up to bodybuilding, I had this belief that I could be the best. And even if it was being like a professional gamer when I was a kid, right? It was down to the like little stupid things like that. So when I first got into bodybuilding, like I said, originally it started me just wanting to get in shape. And then I seen videos of Ronnie Coleman, Jay Cutler, and I said, okay, I could do this one day. I'm going to be Mr. Olympia one day. But first, let me work through the process. So for me, it came very natural. No matter what it is that I do, I believe wholeheartedly if I give my 100% best effort, and I say that because there are things that I haven't given my best effort and I didn't excel at, and that was my fault. But if I wholeheartedly believe if somebody has the self belief and the effort and work ethic to go along with that, and the consistency and the discipline and the correct choices, that self belief can outwork talent 100%. Um, and I've got to see that my whole life. I always was a very confident person in my abilities. Of course, there were times where of self doubt and whatnot, but I always kept in the back of my head, no, this is what I've set my path, what I've set forward for my path. I'm going to believe in myself. I'm going to execute everything 100%, and all those days and wins will add up to what that bigger vision is. And then, what I see a lot today is there's a lot of fake self belief. People who talk about, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but the action doesn't follow, or the choices, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. And that's not real self belief. Do you really believe in yourself if you're not doing, ticking off all those boxes, as people say, and getting those perfect days? Or is it an insecurity that you want to believe in yourself and you can't yet? So I think it's very important for someone to be very self-aware and conscious on if they truly believe in themselves. Because somebody that truly believes in themselves is going to execute everything to the best of their ability. I'm curious, Tom, what about you?
Self-belief.
Has that always come naturally to you? How has that progressed throughout your life?
So anything that I want to be good at, I get obsessive about. And if I'm not good in the beginning, as I get good, that belief increases as I'm getting better at whatever I'm doing. So it was baseball when I was younger. So I think for me, belief has always been tied to the amount of preparation that I've done. So the better I get, the more confidence I'm developing because I'm getting better. Same thing with like a test in high school. I mean, I cheated my way all through school, but on the odd occasion that I wanted to study and do well for myself, I had belief going into the test because I was prepared. So I think sometimes belief is just tied to preparation. Like there's nothing to be nervous about, and you are going to believe in yourself if you're ready for whatever you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I was the same way in school as well.
Yeah, it's school fails people like us, so it's funny to look back on.
It is true. I was the same exact way. If I put my mind to a test or whatever, I did great. But in the other times, I just wanted to be a bodybuilder, so I cheated.
Right. I mean, it's just you figure out how to you manipulate the system of school, which that's a whole other topic. But um, belief in yourself is tricky because I think people, it's just easier to think you suck and just to not elevate your expectations of yourself. So if you say like, well, I'm not that good, so it doesn't matter, then you'll attract that. You'll stay not that good. For me, it was baseball. Like if I would go up to the plate and I'm batting and I have this, my dad used to say, knock the prick off your shoulder. And that's what he meant was there's somebody of self-doubt right here. And there's the belief that I have in myself to outdo the pitcher and get a hit right here. If I listen to this and I'm going to strike out, I'm not going to get a hit, I'm not going to do well, that's almost like counterproductive to what I'm trying to do while I'm at the plate. So I think self-belief, it's not like affirmations and looking yourself in the mirror and telling yourself like that shit doesn't work, that's fake, but really generating self-belief that starts from your core, to me, it comes from just repetition, repetition, repetition. If I train in the gym every day for a year, there's no way I can't believe in myself more towards whatever I'm doing than I did at the start. So sometimes belief can be tied to patience too. Like maybe your belief in yourself isn't that high when you start out at something, but you just have to get started and keep your head down long enough and it will pick up as you keep doing something.
I agree with that too, because I'm the same. Like I said, when I start something, I believe I'm going to be the best at it. But as you said, the better you get at something, of course, the confidence builds. But if you're not giving it 100%, that confidence will never build. There's some people who don't give it something 100% and they still get better at it, but they still lack that self belief because they got away with doing the bare minimum or a half-ass effort. But if you're wholeheartedly investing yourself in that process, that confidence builds. And like you said, it coincides with that self-belief that you're going to achieve this goal and there's no other option but winning or becoming whatever it is that you're trying to become. And you made a good point. There's this book I'm reading. I want to share this with everybody. It's called The Master of You. So it's written by Conan Severia. He's the head coach of American top team, MMA gym here in Coconut Creek, Florida. And Conan was one of the original fighters in the UFC in the 90s. He fought in UFC 1. He was a heavyweight. He came from Brazil. He's been coaching guys for over 20 years, some of the best champions in the world to this day. And he is one of the most incredible-minded humans and coaches I've ever spoken to. He talks about this a lot. And the point of this book is, not only about self-believing in yourself and shaping. This is a mindset book based on his experiences from himself and the athletes that he coached. And he goes you would actually love this book. He's a very, very direct but very deep guy. And I want to share what the general synopsis of what the book is with everybody. And it ties into what we're saying. The starting point for success involves two fundamental aspects: conscious and choice. Conscious has to do with reality and knowledge. You must know where you are, who you are, and what you have got to do to get where you want. But that is not enough to make things happen. You must take a decisive step and choose. And that's what his whole thing is: choose to win. How to accomplish this in your life is what the coach of multi-champion Conan Severia proposes in Master of You. And he, like I said, this book was released in Brazil first. He's from Brazil. He lives here in the United States. Just released on Amazon here in English a few weeks ago. I highly recommend everybody read this book. This is not a boring book. He goes very in depth with his life in Brazil, to when he did prison time, fighting in the UFC, and a deep look into his mind of being a champion, and those same qualities of self-belief and choices that he instills in his fighters. And a big thing that ties into self-belief, aside from preparation and effort and hard work, is choices. And when he told me this, it was like a bomb went off in my head. I think I spoke about this on one of our podcasts, but just to go a bit deeper, every day we are faced with choices. You want to be a great bodybuilder, right? Things could change like that. I'm getting ready for the show. I'm going to go cheat on my diet. That's the whole thing changes from that one choice. Life changes by the millisecond. We make one wrong choice, that'll completely change the trajectory for the rest of our life or the goal that we're setting on. So having that self-belief and that confidence, making the right choices, is going to further back up and solidify that self-belief, because the more good choices that we make, that we're choosing, you're not just making choices, you're choosing to be a winner. You're choosing to execute, you're choosing to prepare, you're choosing to do everything to the best of your ability. And that is what forms a confident and strong sense of self-belief in an athlete, a businessman, whatever it is, a coach. So I think it's very important that people are very conscious and aware of the choices that they're making every day. And I said, again, I said this in a previous podcast. He said, you wish somebody good morning. They're not all of a sudden going to have a good morning. You hope that they have a good morning, but you're wishing them that they make good choices in their morning that will set up for an even better day. So, you coach a lot of guys, I coach a lot of guys, and we can give them the blueprint, but we hope that they make the right choices throughout the day and with their training to become that athlete that they, say that they want to be. But are they choosing to be the athlete that they want to be, or whatever it is? And that is a very, very important um, point, especially in today's times, that the choices we make coincide on that confidence and then with that self-belief in oneself.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point about everything ties together when you look at it from the basis of choices. From the minute you wake up, once your thoughts start circulating, choices are being made. Choosing to snooze the alarm, you're starting out in a negative if that's your first choice of the day, because there's a reason you set the alarm, right? And snoozing it probably wasn't the best move getting out or to start your day. So all these little micro decisions, probably they're either going to fuel your self-belief in yourself or they're going to drain it. And I think if a lot of people look inward at their day, if I'm going to train later today, what are all the necessary things I need to do to make my training session the best it's going to be? Thus, I'm going to believe in myself the minute I walk through the gym door. But if I do none of the things that I'm supposed to do, and then I walk through the gym door, all of this is going to be scrambled. I'm not going to be present in my training doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm distracted. And then I'm going to question myself, like, why am I even here? Should I just go home? Should I quit for the day? Blah, 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 blah. So I never thought about it from that perspective of really your choices probably are what determines the amount of self-belief you have in yourself.
Well, yeah, you even just said it best right there. Not to interrupt you too far, is you go and have a shitty training session later today because of that's going to probably leak over in some people, most people, that will carry over into tomorrow. And then that self-belief diminishes and doubt sets in more and negativity sets in. And eventually most people would give up or they just will fall short every time.
Yeah. So talk to me about your self-belief in yourself, like at the peak of your bodybuilding career, going into nationals when you won in 2014. What, from an outsider looking in, what does self-belief, what did it look like? Could anybody shake you? Could anybody make you doubt yourself? Could anything knock you off your pedestal of belief in yourself at that time?
So there are two stories I'm going to share. And please just make the second one I'm going to share is a text I got from somebody. He used to be, he was a friend. We competed when I was 18. He was older. I'm going to just make sure I get into that after this first point. Oscar was from a young age, I will always quote him, was very big into instilling self-belief in somebody and visualizing the process, but having that meet with the action. And one of his tools was have his athletes write a journal during every prep. You wake up in the morning, you go to your journal, you envision yourself on stage in detail, on stage, going pose for pose. How's it going to go? You receiving the award, how you're going to feel, all that. And you do that in the beginning of the day and before you go to bed at night. And I did that team nationals, Easterns, and then nationals, and then New York Pros, the shit show in all itself. But how I started my day and how I ended my day set the precedent for everything that happened between with that self-belief in myself. So nothing was going to shake how I knew I was going to, how I felt, how I knew I was going to do. I believed and fully put in my head that, yes, I am going to win. And at the most, I'm going to give it my best effort, and whatever happens, happens, because obviously there's things that are out of your control. So that was a big tool that he instilled in me. Of course, with books, there were many books that he told me to read and movies to help strengthen and fortify this mindset. And over time, it just makes you stronger. And like you said, you will not break. So when I was 18, I did the Eastern USA. I won the teen class. I won the teen overall. I won the novice light heavyweight. Placed fifth in the open light heavyweight. And I arguably could have won the novice overall. Back then, novice overalls, especially in New York, were serious. And the person I was competing with was a former friend. We were fairly close. He was older, and I think his ego did get the best of him. And he won the overall. He was a heavyweight. I was a light heavyweight. I was in way better condition. Like I said, arguably I could have won, but I didn't. I wasn't upset because I was a teenager and I won everything else. And we stopped talking after that show because supposedly somebody said that I said I should have won, which I never said that. He was a friend of mine. He stopped talking to me. Whatever. Speed forward to I'm getting ready for nationals. Um, did he do? Oh, he did Easterns and nationals when I was 21. So we were meeting on stage again. And I will never forget this. It's vivid in my head. I was driving to Manhattan to go visit my mom in the hospital. I was getting ready for the Eastern USA. And I remember it's very vivid. I remember driving underneath the Verrazano Bridge and you see his name pop up. I haven't spoken to him in years. And he long paragraph. He basically said, you know, in the nice beating on the bush way, he's going to beat me, and he doesn't want to happen what happened last time with uh, motions and people getting upset and this and that. And I remember reading this, and I was like, okay, so you're saying you're going to beat me already. Haven't even been on my radar because I didn't care who I was competing with. And I remember being in a drive, I was like, oh, this is cool. It didn't like shake me. Well, I didn't even get angry. I didn't get upset. I was okay. And I kind of said, okay, motherfucker, like now I'm just going to work even harder. And I did. I remember there were cardio sessions. I would think of that text and I was like, you really think that highly of yourself in this situation? And it came to the Eastern USA. I won the heavyweight class. I won the overall. He placed, I think, fifth or fourth, and then went on to nationals and didn't even place. It was funny how tides turn, but nobody, nothing anybody would say would ever throw me off ever. It would literally go in one ear and out the other, and that's if I even let it in the ear. I would just laugh at it, and because I knew I was doing my cardio the hardest, I was training the hardest, I was dieting the hardest. Like nobody was, and I believed I was going to be the best in whatever that was going to be, and that was my mindset going into those shows. You know, New York Pro was a bit different. Mom was dying, died. It was kind of one of those things. Just wanted to get it done at that point. But even even when I was 16, getting ready for my first show, and 18, I believe I would go to bed watching bodybuilding movies, and I'm gonna win. And I was also humble as well. I was never cocky. I believed in myself, but I was humble. So that really, again, that fueled the training, that fueled the diet, that fueled everything. Because I mean, if you think about it, if I let that throw me off, and then that creeped in my mind, I mean, it's a big thing. I'm going to talk about MMA a lot too with these guys. It's a big mental warfare. MMA is much different than bodybuilding. You have two people fighting. Only one person's going to win. It could be somebody gets caught off guard or somebody out prepared and is mentally that strong going in that they just fucking destroy them. And you have to really be a mentally strong person from being around these pro fighters to be in that field. And if you let something throw you off, that's enough. You're going to get knocked the fuck out or choked or whatever. And, building up that self belief and that confidence through the actions and keeping this bubble around you to keep that negativity. So, number one, you can't have any negativity lying inside of you. That's key. If there's any negativity or self doubt lying inside, it doesn't matter what everybody else says. You've already failed yourself. But once you solidify that and made that external barrier, then nobody can really fuck with you. You're good. Like hopefully you show up at your best. But I think it's very important to have those two internal, external barriers set, and forming that self-belief and that vision of you winning. And like I said, nothing can throw you off at that point. But it's a lot easier said, than done.
Yeah, I mean, you make some good points. I think the environment that you have around you, both atmosphere of people and just even your home. I mean, your environment's going to dictate what goes on up here too. So that's why I asked about it. Could anything throw you off? A lot of people have anchors or energy vampires in their life, and they let them stay there and hold a place in their life. And if you have something that requires a lot of self-belief, like you're doing a bodybuilding show, you're going into an MMA fight, you're trying to get a big promotion at a job and move up the career ladder, like you have to cut all that dead weight out, and you have to be ruthless in how you do it. any times that my self-belief in myself has been lower in anything in life, whether it was trying to get a fire job, pursuing coaching, um, bodybuilding shows, I've had anchors around me that were like almost, they were my friends or they were supportive, but deep down, because they weren't doing anything with their life, they almost were like hoping I'd fail so that I stayed on the same plane as them, the same level as them. And you have to cut those people out. And it might be family members, it might be people you're really close with. I mean, I've had best friends of over a decade that I've just had to go a different way than because my self-belief was getting so strong and they didn't have any, that it just becomes awkward to be around people that aren't pursuing anything that requires belief in yourself. So audit your circle. I think if you're going to excel at anything in life, you're going to be doing a lot of removing of people and places that just don't fit where you're going.
Yeah, and that's an important factor as well. Is no matter what I ever did in my life, I wanted to be surrounded with people that have been there and done that, and are positive and have very high energy in what they're doing, and not this negativity. Because people could bring you down without even saying anything too. You could just feel it off of them. People don't realize it, but you could just feel it off of them. And I think at this point in my life, more than ever, I feel people's energy more than ever, their frequency more than ever. And those high frequency, high level, high achievers are the ones you want around you. At least I want around me, because all right, we're all just fueling each other's fire a bit. Because all it takes is one little cancer, and the whole circle gets thrown off, and everything kind of just goes to shit. So you just made a great point by auditing your circle, who you have around you, and is this person or are these people, weighing you down? There's that saying, are they, helping you row the boat, or are they bringing water into the boat? You know?
Yeah. So as a coach, and you work with a lot of guys, I work with a lot of guys, and this applies to females too, but how do you, you provide the plan, we give guidance, how do you then put self-belief into someone? Because I've learned that you can almost be like a kickstart for a person just by believing in them enough at the start. It's almost like you're their training wheels, and you just got to get them moving enough, and then you can take the training wheels off and they're riding the bike on their own. So what are some things you do when you get an athlete who you might notice has lower self-esteem or lower self-confidence than they should, and all you need to do is kind of get them started?
Yeah, so that's the thing, is you can't do that with everybody right off the jump,
Right.
because you only have so much water we can fill in a cup before it spills over. So for a while, I'll feel someone out. I'll see how serious. Listen, somebody could be serious with something and maybe have a low self-esteem. It happens with a lot of people, especially with bodybuilding. But through time, I'll see that, and I'll start giving them little nudges, like, "No, dude, like you can fucking do this. Like, I will never ever over compliment. I will never ever back rub, but I will throw bits and pieces. It'll be a small little bit, and I'll see that, okay, they love that. Okay, good, and I'll hold it, because if you start just pushing people way too much with words, they eventually get comfortable. At least those type of people. You can't. They have to, like you said, you have to be able to take the training wheels off. And I'm going to use Gary Turner as um, the best example for this. We spoke last year. I think it was around September, October, and we were going back and forth about working together. And I said, Gary, I'm like, I've been watching you for a while. He could quote me on this. I said, Gary, I've been watching, and I know that man fucking loved bodybuilding. He did everything he was always supposed to do. I said, Gary, you can turn pro. I know you can do this. I'm like, it's just a matter of you doing it and you believe in yourself. He didn't fully believe in himself. And he even had said, he goes, I never had a coach that really believed in me. I always did what I was told. And I really fully didn't believe in myself the entire time I was competing, but he needed that little bit of reinforcement from me to set off that fire. Boy, did it fucking set a fire in him, because we had that off-season period from last September, October, that went all through last year at the beginning of this year, and then into his prep for the Team Universe. And he came in his best condition ever. He won his pro card very easily in that class. Arguably could have won the overall. But someone like him, he's been bodybuilding for a very long time, and he lacked just that little bit of somebody to instill, like, dude, no, I believe you can do this. I know you can do this. You have to believe it. And that struck a big, big spark in him, and that was And that was it. And he talks about it to this day. And, as a coach with certain athletes, again, you can't do this to everybody off the bat because you can only do this to so many people. They have to kind of earn that part of a coach and prove to that coach, like, okay, you're going to invest a bit more in me than a bit more in them than, nutrition guidance, training guidance, or whatever it is. Because, we as coaches, we're giving people, you don't realize it becomes mentally exhausting after a while. You invest in somebody so much, especially when it comes into getting into their mental mindset. Some guys don't need any at all. Like you, I just tell you what to do and you're good. Ross, he does not want to hear that shit. Hates that shit. Tell him what to do. That's it. Well, I think there was maybe twice. He didn't have doubt. Actually, it was a week out from the Cali Pro, 8 days out from the Cali Pro. He's like, goes, Dom, I don't think we're in shape. And I'm like, you don't think you're in shape? And this was at like 12 o'clock at night. I know if Ross texted me 12 o'clock at night, his mind's going a little bit. And I mean, you've seen his conditioning. So there's certain guys like that you need to reel them back a little bit. And they're like, okay, then they're good. Like, let's fucking go. And then he went and did 30,000 steps and trained legs, and I had to fix that mess. But guys like him, guys like Gary, guys like you, it just takes a little. Some guys need nothing. Some guys need just a little sprinkle, and it lights them up. And then there are others who need a little bit more of a push. But it's harder with the ones that need more of that energy and that instilling, because that has to be maintained. And again, like you said, those training wheels have to be taken off, and you have to hope that they carry through with it, because we can go all this time and they're doing great and you pull back a little, and all of a sudden, whoop, it goes down, or it goes down even worse, or they just completely fall off for good. So that's another important part as well. But there is another point, and we can table this if you want. What ties into this as well is how a coach and an athlete handles winning and failures. I don't know if this is a good time to go into that.
Yeah, hit it, because I think I'm on the same path as you mentally.
So a thing I wanted to speak about, and it's funny you bring up the self-belief, or the individual who commented on the YouTube, how a coach handles winning and how a coach handles failures or losses, and how an athlete is both very important. So a lot of guys can win a show, win an event, whatever it is, and they're like, okay, I'm good. Now I'm ready to get even better. And then there are those that, all right, I won. I'm good for now. They believed themselves the whole time. They won. Now that I'm good, my bar is raised. They're not seeing that there's all these other levels to this, and they start getting comfortable. You hit with the euphoria. Everything feels good. You're getting praise. You're getting attention. And what athletes and coaches don't realize is that when that wears off, it's going to take away from your abilities as a coach or an athlete. And that's a very, people say the most important thing to focus on with this topic is how you handle losses. But people also have to realize is, how do you handle your wins? Because not everyone handles wins like a true champion. A champion, I won, all right, it's time to get better. And I speak from experience, because I've done this once before. I won my pro card. I got all the fucking attention in the world. My social media was blowing up. I had sponsors coming out all over the place. I remember going into a club in Manhattan like weeks after, and everybody in the club knew me, and I got a little comfortable for a few months. And I should have really just been hitting it hard. Like, I'm a pro now. I'm in deep end of the pool now. So I had to make up for some lost time on that. So when I speak about this, I speak about experience. But even from a coaching standpoint, which is my main priority now more than ever, you're going to win something, or if you win, you need to realize, like, listen, the attention is going to die down. That euphoria and dopamine hit is going to die down. You need to, all right, what's next? We'll celebrate for like a minute, right back to it. And you have to hit the ground running again, because there's going to be more shows, more events, whatever it is. And then, there's how an athlete deals with failure. And most people see failure or see a loss, and it's a massive blow to their self-esteem and their self-belief. Like, they could feel like the smallest person in the world. And again, it's easier said than done. When somebody, we kind of spoke about it. You have to embrace failure, or embrace a loss, because there's something to learn from it. A lot of the best boxers in the world didn't even win their first fight. I mean, Kobe Bryant wasn't the best basketball player at first. He had that he could outwork people, and he did, and that's how he became one of the best in ever history. Michael Jordan, same thing. And some of the greatest businessmen out there. So you know, when somebody hits failure or hits a point where there's a loss, they need to immediately evaluate, okay, this is not what my future holds. This is just at this present moment in time. Okay, how do I learn from this? How do I adapt from this? How do I get better? And let me immediately get right back on the horse. Because the longer you stay off that horse, that self belief and that confidence is dwindling down and it is going to be so hard to jump back from that. And again, I learned some incredible things being around some of the best MMA fighters and coaches in the world. And I have now heard stories about guys winning. You win, they're fucking on yachts, private jets, and they this and that. They went from, you know, going to all the pro classes and getting all the work into just working with their coach, just getting ready for a fight in camp instead of working year round. Next thing you know, they're winning, they're losing nonstop, and their career is done. Happened to Conor McGregor. And then there are guys that the self belief and confidence goes down when they lose, and then it's just this nonstop, repetitive cycle of losses, and a lot of them don't bounce back from that. And the same thing can happen with bodybuilding. So it's very important to be conscious and self aware of when you're winning. Don't ride that horse for so long because you got to get right back on another one and get better. And then if you lose, you hop right back on the next horse, because the longer we stray away from the original vision and self-belief that we had, it's going to be it'll be very hard to build that back up again and get back to where you were previously if you were at that high point of self-belief and confidence.
Yeah, I think I think it's easier to, for me, I think it's easier to deal with failure than winning. Winning it can be awkward because it's like you're going to get all that praise and all that attention, and in the social media age, you're going to get a ton of engagement, which is going to give you a ton of dopamine. You're like, everybody, you're the man of the hour, and you get your 15 minutes of fame, but 48 hours later, it's dwindling, like you said. So you can't rely on that as a fuel source. You almost have to have amnesia. Like if you compete on Saturday, take your time, enjoy Saturday night, breathe on Sunday, and then Monday there has to be something to look forward to and to almost erase that win because it's now in the past. I like to think about, did warriors sit around talking about their previous battles and posting throwbacks and living through that? Or did they look forward and on to the next battle whenever that comes? I mean, it is. I mean, I'm not trying to compare bodybuilding to being a warrior, but the mindset is what we're after here. Like, don't let that one moment in time be what defines you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like the old guy at the bar talking about winning states 20 years ago. And then with failure, I mean, that's a big opportunity to slingshot yourself forward. So USA's, I was in the second call out and I met you coming off stage. Now I could have come up to you and been like, what the fuck? We didn't make first call, blah, 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 victim mentality. Or, the conversation was very simple. What's next? What do we need to do to get better? You and I talked for 5 minutes, and right there, I already had a seed planted of what's next. I think I took 7th place. I was in a better state of mind and a better place than guys who were, fighting for first, second, and third that day, because I already knew, like, this is just a checkpoint in time. I have amnesia. I don't care about this anymore. On to the next. So that 7th place now becomes that seed that's going to build and build and build. And I see with guys and girls all the time that start posting throwbacks. They're living in that time still. And it's okay to like reflect and have a moment of nostalgia, but at the same time, don't let that be where you stay because where you're at, you don't like where you're at presently.
Yeah, that's a great. I remember having that conversation. I even seen in your face. You were like, "Okay, just tell me what's next." And you're like, "Okay." And I walked away. I was like, I remember thinking, I'm like, did I tell him enough? Because you were just so at peace with it, and you were so ready to set, which is rare. I'm not used to people being like, "Okay, we'll just I'm ready to let's go eat the next meal and let's just get better." A lot of people, I've had athletes where they threw a fucking fit. There was one nationals. This guy could have won the class easily in the super heavies. And I remember during the peak, he took an Epsom salt bath without telling me, cut his salt down. Mind he was on diuretics. Looked like a completely different person the next day. I'm sure it was impossible to fix him, but he looked fucking gnarly. And I remember after prejudging, texting him, not answering. Now I'm starting to worry. Like, just something happened. Go back to the Airbnb, and I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I hear a knock on the door. Walks in, fuck, and starts fucking bullshit. He sits down, and he's like having a fucking like a tantrum. Which, first off, is disrespectful as fuck. You don't reach out to your coach right after. I was waiting for hours for you. Everybody was waiting hours for you, and then you throw. And Tommy, I ripped into him, and I don't rip into people for no reason. I fucking ripped into him, and for that was the worst behavior I've ever seen in an athlete. And then after that, he never. We had a rebound after that. He could have easily gotten better and went back the next year and he, without a doubt, won his pro card. And to this day, I don't even think he's competed. I don't know. I don't even have him on social media anymore. But it was sad too, but my point, not to go too far, that athlete didn't have a lot of self-belief in himself. And I remember 6 weeks out, he was like really doubting himself. And I seen he looked great. So now I'm like, no, dude, like you can do X, Y, and Z. I just need this out of you. Like, you can fucking do this. And he's like, okay, I needed to hear that. Thank you. And he fucking did. And like I said, up until 2 days out, this guy he almost looked like a smaller Victor Martinez in a way. And just great lines. Quads weren't the biggest, but he was peeled. And then he fucked that up. But, that he allowed that moment to define who he was, and that little bit of self-belief we built up throughout that prep fucking flatlined. I mean, it was, if you had like a heart rate monitor, it was like the flatline dead point. And I think people have to be very, very conscious and aware of their emotions, to backtrack when they win and then when they lose. And especially as a coach, this year, it was end of May all the way up until UDO Nationals. People were winning nonstop, and every time somebody won, I had to take a moment to step back and go, okay, I can't let this get to me, because there was a lot of it. There was a shit ton of attention this year. People praising me and this and that. It was cool. It's great to get recognized for your athlete's work and the work you put in, but can't let it get to you. And I remember going to Toronto with Ross, and all the talk was about him. And everywhere we go, people were talking. That went on for weeks, but I had to keep in my mind, like, no, like there are other athletes that have to win. And then, you went to win your overall, and Chris Mazzaro went to win the junior nationals, and Cody and Gary and all these other guys, and Brendan. And, it's people, not, again, I'm ranting a bit too long. Keeping in track of those emotions when you lose and when you win is a critical point and a critical factor in where your self-belief tank is and your confidence. Hopefully I didn't get too off point.
No, I think you covered it. And I noticed it, working with you is like, because you're leading from the front, essentially. A coach is leading from the front. Whether they have a guy who's super experienced and he's a pro at the Olympia level, or it's, a person doing their first show. The coach that you hire is always your leader if you're doing it right. And if you're not impressed by your coach, or you're not willing to be a soldier and let them be the general, that dynamic is already fucked. It doesn't matter if you're doing MMA, bodybuilding, whatever. Every coach I've ever had at anything I do, business, baseball, bodybuilding, whatever. Some of my fire captains, when I was a new pro in the fire service, like, I look at that person as like, you are my leader. Tell me what to do. I'm an instrument for you to deploy, however. And that's been my mindset, is like offense only. Whatever you're doing, it's offense only. I watched so many guys in bodybuilding get punked because someone posts that they're doing a show. And it's like, that person has to do all the same things you do. They might post better pictures and look better and be the favorite that everyone's picking. But at the end of the day, it's one day. They could get fucking food poisoning 2 days before the show and come in fucked. You don't know. All you can control is what you can control going in. I want everyone to do the shows I do. I hope they all show up. That makes it fun. But other people look at it like you want to sneak into this show and just win and no one do it. But why would you want to win like that? That's worse. That's why I said winning, especially in bodybuilding, can feel worse than losing, because if you win and no one was there, what kind of win is that?
Yeah, but that's how me and you think. There are people now,
right,
coaches, like, they put somebody in the show and there's nobody there, and they're posting about it and they're wearing the medals and this, but there was nobody there. Like, and I see a lot of these coaches now, and like,
Got
yeah,
some hardware.
the hardware. Yeah, we came home with some hardware today. You look at the athlete, and I'm sorry, but they look like a natural person that didn't even fucking diet. And it's like, hardware. You won. You didn't win anything, dude. Like, and unfortunately, people get stuck in that cycle. Like, why would, again, I would feel absolutely horrible if somebody went into a show with no competition and won their pro card. Like, there needs to be some sort of a high standard of competition, or else then it kind of just throws away the whole value and purpose of doing that. And even down to a regional level too. Like, listen, like, you know, regional levels, we both know, are almost so hit or miss, more miss than they are hit. But I will never understand of people celebrating wins when they're not even wins. You know, I can go in my mirror and shadow box. I could go into the gym and hit a bag and fucking feel like I'm world champion of the world, and then go step into a ring with somebody and get my fucking ass beat. You know, I can go post online all the shit I'm doing alone, but when the rubber hits the pavement, it ain't real. So,
Right.
fortunately, today people get scared and fear about who will go in. But the whole point of competition is to test yourself and compete against, you know, people who are hopefully at the highest level in your class or in your field.
Right. I think with coaching, we kind of touched on it. So when I get someone who's, say, a bodybuilding client, but lifestyle too, I mean, whatever the goal is it doesn't really apply. More than the physique, the first for sure the first month, but could be the first 2 months, I'm assessing their mindset. I'm reading how they talk in check-ins. If we're messaging at all during the week, the questions they've had. If I get someone who doesn't have one question, it's almost unless it's someone who's got a lot of experience, they've worked with coaches, they shouldn't have questions probably. But if you don't have one fucking question and you're new, you've never competed before, and I try to lay everything out to where there isn't questions, but I still expect them. That's almost a red flag for me. Like, just like somebody that sends 50 questions, like, all right, you're neurotic. But if you don't have one and you've never done this before, I question how well you're going to apply what I've given you, because that's all coaching is. And I think you might have posted a story about this recently. We're just giving you basically a set of directions. This is the guidance. This is what you follow. But how you go about applying it, your initiative, you know, here's the plan, 6 meals a day. I can't tell you how your day is going to go, to how you're going to space those out to make sure you get them all in. But if the first check-in comes to me and you've missed a slew of meals across 7, 8, 9, 10 days, I've assessed your mindset as, well, you're not willing to do whatever it takes, because outside of like extreme circumstance, there's zero excuses to miss meals. And I can say that because when I was younger, I did miss meals in my off season because I wasn't hungry. I fell asleep. I didn't want to eat, whatever, all excuses, all victim mentality. There's zero excuse to miss your fucking meals. And that's something very simple that you do when you hire a coach, a nutrition coach. There's zero excuse to really cheat on your plan other than just admitting like, hey, I wanted to cheat. I wanted to have something off plan. Nobody forces food down your throat. You control what goes into your mouth at all times. So I think coaching, when we talk about instilling belief in people's self-belief, is it's a lot of it's like an audition. And then once you learn someone, like, are they anxious about how they perform in the gym? Are they always questioning if they're doing things right? I get a lot of females that are like that. Like, did I do that right? Did I do that right? Like, at some point, you just have to kind of trust yourself and learn to flow. You know, training is repetition. It takes years. And even now, I'm still going into the gym every day, chasing the perfect workout. Like, I got to get my pre-workout powders right, my supplementation right, my warm-up routine right, all my warm-up reps got to be right. Everything has to align, and I'm still chasing that perfect workout. And if you ask me at the end of the day, every day that I train, was that your best workout of your life? I can't say yes and I can't say no. It was just another day. Like, I showed up, I checked my boxes, I did the best I could, and I'll come back tomorrow. But I talked about amnesia earlier. You have, like, I've seen people have a bad workout and they'll message me right away, or they'll message me in the gym while they're having a bad workout. I'm like, well, the workout might have been going not the best, but it's fucked now because you're texting me while you're still in the gym. There should be no reason you're texting your coach in your gym. I think I messaged you once because I felt something pop, and I was like, man, this might not be good. But other than that, there's no reason to be, on your phone at all, really texting anyone during a training session. But I just think when a coach believes in someone, it can be, like you said, hype is not self-belief. Telling someone they're going to win their show and you're gassing them up, like that's fake. That's fleeting. That's like motivation. It doesn't exist. And it'll get exposed on a show day or a fight in an MMA or anything. Like, fake belief is toxic. It's worse than no belief. But so with young guys, especially, I'm trying to instill stoicism. Like, don't show emotion. Don't get excited about anything good. Appreciate it, be proud in the moment, but fucking let it go quick. And don't hold your losses, let it go. Bad set, move on to the next exercise. Bad workout, doesn't matter. You train tomorrow. Like, I think when you adopt that mindset, you never really, I can't say I have bad training sessions. Like, are they all legendary? No, but that's discipline. You just got to get through it some days. How do you react? Like, if there's a day where you're leaving the gym, what's your mindset if you felt your performance wasn't where it should have been in like what you're doing now?
Yeah, so I actually just had this conversation with my coach last week, and I was training with one of his heavyweights. This guy was fucking tall. He was a big fucking dude. And I remember at the end, what was going through my head, and I was also exhausted. I was like, damn, I don't think this was my best work. I just didn't. I told him, I go, did I seem a little sloppy or anything? He was like, no. He goes, why would you say that? I'm like, I felt like I was like off, and he goes, no, you did fucking great. He was like, you need to be a little more graceful with yourself. He's like, it's impossible for it to be completely perfect. He's like, but you also have to realize when you're that exhausted, he even said, he's like, when he trains or when these champions train, they have that same thing going on. And then they have to wipe it out like that. It's especially in that field, it's a natural thing. So it does happen when I do something right, or I start honing in on a skill. For a moment, I'm like, okay, great, I got it locked in. Because then when I get too excited about it, then it kind of just goes to shit. So let me give an example. Leg kicks, low leg kicks to the thigh. I started getting pretty good at them, and I was getting excited. And then, but when you're in those moments, in those situations, you can't have emotions fueling you. Either be negative or positive. You can't be like, I fucking feel good right now, because that's throwing you off in some way or another. I mean, there's a lot more gears that are turning with that versus like weight training in the gym. But let's say you're in the gym and you fucking hit 800 pounds on squats or whatever. You still have a whole nother workout to go. You just had this high, and you're like, yeah, I'm fucking having the greatest workout. But think back to Oscar. I squatted fucking 7 plates each side for 12 reps, and I was exhausted. But I never back then would sit there and be like, yeah, I fucking did that. Afterwards, I was like, that was a great workout. But during the workout, it was like, okay, I did that. I was and we weren't allowed phones, by the way, like you were just saying. I was so zoned in, and every week I got stronger. You did good. We're doing the workout, and then we would move on. It was okay. What's next? We go to leg press, fucking 50 reps, 5 sets. Do that. Move on. After work, okay, had a good workout. Next week I'm going to get stronger, and that's how it worked when I was bodybuilding. But it's the same thing now. In the middle of my training, I can't allow that emotion either be a positive or negative emotion, because that one little emotion can change the trajectory of the rest of that workout or whatever it is. And the same thing like with coaching, you know what I'm saying? Like we were just saying. So it's very important to, like you said, not allow emotions to dictate the rest of either be a training session or whatever it is. Because again, back to either winning something or losing something or being in the gym, you can't ride that little moment for long, because it is going to offset something else that you have to do.
Yeah, no, I think the basic summary of everything we've said is simply to audit your circle, remove the dead ends, the energy vampires, the losers. Winning is a choice. Losing is a choice. Being financially well off or being rich is a choice. Being broke is a choice. I don't have empathy for people that are broke. I've had very little money at one time in my life, and it was based off the choices I was making. I just had to work harder to get myself out of that situation, right? So choices. You talked about choices, like self-belief is really derived from choices and preparation. If you're not calm as a cucumber on the day of a bodybuilding show, it's because you didn't do everything that you had control of all the way in. I always tell my clients that are getting ready, especially the first timers, the day before the show, when you're just tanning and checking in, no cardio, you're just eating and posing, should be the best day of your year. You're chill. You can reflect and sit around and just have that nostalgic moment of like, did I do everything I could for this prep to be my best? Yes, you've already won. Tomorrow is just a checkpoint in time. If you didn't, you'll know that. You have to look at the man in the mirror and say, like, yeah, I cut cardio or I cheated on the diet and I didn't tell my coach. Do you know how many people cheat on their fucking diet? I mean, I would say it's over 95% of people cheat on their plans and don't admit it. And they live with that guilt.
But a lot of them don't even have guilt. That's the problem too. They don't. It's okay to them. I would feel absolutely horrific if I did.
Oh, I know. I actually used you to one of my clients the other day because I said, if I had to tell Dom that I, went off plan for 4 meals in 1 week, I would expect him to fire me. And I'm saying this like on a Loom video response. I'm like, I'm not firing you, but I was like, you need to really reflect on the decisions you're making and ask yourself, is this what I want to do? Because 1 off plan meal, okay, like 4 in 1 week that's problematic. So same thing. I never want to disappoint the people that I'm paying them money to lead me, but also like that's a respect thing too. Like I don't want this guy to tell other people that, like, hey, I worked with that guy one time, he cheated on his plan. Like that's mortifying.
And that goes on because people do talk. Hey, somebody asked me about somebody and they didn't give me their best performance. I'm going to tell them the fucking truth.
Yeah, you can't argue the truth. If it's the truth, it's the truth. It's not talking shit when it's reality. Like, hey, I got this email right here where they said they cheated this amount of times. Like, maybe don't hire them or maybe don't work with them.
Exactly. It happens all the time.
I'll wrap it up with I got one more thing I want to ask you as far as damn it, I lost it. It had to do with coaching. So how do we, to wrap this up, if there is a listener right now struggling with believing in themselves, or it could be there's someone who has never really had a problem believing in themselves, but they've fallen off, because you mentioned having times in your life where belief was at the rock bottom, and I've been there too. So what are a few things we can give someone to help kickstart that, get that primed and get that self-belief generated again?
Well, number one is if they're not doing everything they're supposed to do, start. They have to make a checklist every day of, okay, let me go to the bare basics of like bodybuilding, drinking all my water, getting all my supplements in, eating all my food to the gram, every morsel. No, I try not to use the word missed anymore. Missed means that it wasn't intentional. You had something going on, you missed a cardio set. Like it had to be something serious. You didn't skip a meal, you didn't skip a training session, you're training your hardest, and all these add up. Because without that, like you said, you're not getting better at your craft. So your confidence isn't going to go. So how's that going to instill more belief? So you have to make sure you're really getting those core fundamentals down. But what I am a big believer on is using some external sources that from people that have been more experienced. Like I said, this books that Oscar has given me, and videos and stories. Another important part of this is you can read this. You could read this till you're blue in the face. You can watch all the videos and watch all the reels on Instagram that you can fucking see. But if you're not applying them and putting this to use every day, it's nothing. It's mindless. You might as well go read comic books. Like there's no point in doing that. So finding books like this, and again, this could be like a rule book for you. This could be like a manual for how am I going to reset my mind. And even then, look, there's little things in here. Like that little homeworks. You can make homework for yourself. Again, journaling is a very important, is a great tool people could use. Oscar would tell me to do it all the time. How do you select what makes sense for your life? Do you hear them all indistinctly? What kind of people do you reject or ignore? Do you have any criteria? How's your seat? Like, read all this stuff, audit yourself, be selfish and be conscious and self-aware, and apply these things, because these could be very, very critical building blocks and building up your confidence and self-belief that come after putting in the effort and the work every day. And then with that, you tie all that together, perfect days equal perfect weeks equal perfect months. That is a massive dopamine hit and confidence boost. Fuck yeah, I can fucking do this now. I'm getting better. I'm growing. I'm getting leaner. Whatever it is, I feel great. I'm getting healthier. Now let me start making bigger tasks for myself. I did all this, and that's another key too. Is when you achieve something, of course, like we said, your confidence goes up. So I've spoken about this. Setting micro goals for yourself can be, everybody can say, I want to turn pro. I want to go to the Olympia. The fuck out of here with that. Micro goals, like maybe I want to squat this. I want to bench that. I want to get 2 months of perfect meals in. Whatever it is, setting up micro goals are very, very important for somebody to again, you're achieving something. There's small elements of achievement that make you, all right, I'm getting better, so now I'm going to believe in myself more. And then you have this whole room filled up with all these micro achievements and workouts and everything, and then finally, like, all right, I'm up for the the bigger task. But you also have to realize too, like we spoke about, going into bigger tasks, you always face either winning or losing, and tie everything that we spoke about into that and bring all this together. And I feel, again, easier said than done. That is some of the critical points in instilling some self-belief in yourself and fortifying it.
Yeah, I think it's always that the biggest thing I can take from that is start basic. Drink your water, take your supplements, cut all the bullshit out if you've been eating foods that aren't positive or they're high inflammatory. Cut the people out, cut the Netflix out. Replace Netflix and stupid shit that just eats up space in your mind with personal development books. But like you said, make sure you apply what you're reading and not just, sharing it on Instagram and looking the part. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius was a book that kind of changed the trajectory of my thinking. It taught me a lot about gratitude. That's another, we didn't even talk about gratitude. If you find a way to practice that every single day, whatever you're dealing with, or gratitude can almost fuel you. It can almost build belief in you because you can be grateful for where you're at. But the basics, drinking water, eating your food, taking your vitamins, taking your supplements, getting to bed at a good time if you've been staying up late and scrolling on your phone. For me, I've noticed that if I just let my hair or my lack of hair, if I don't shave and keep myself cleaned up, and if I'm having self-belief issues or there's a little bit of doubt, it could be tied into my personal hygiene as far as how I'm taking care of myself. So dudes that are listening to this, shave your face, shave your head. If you have a beard, get it fucking trimmed, put some oil in it. The ladies do something right when they talk about that self-love shit and getting their nails and hair and all that stuff done. Like, there's value to that for men too. So you don't have to go above and beyond, but just something simple of taking care of yourself. Clean your fucking house. If your mind's a mess, I guarantee where you're living's a mess. Pick up your space. If you work at home, keep a clean work spot. Start basic and then just build with those basics and build momentum, because losing streaks can happen. And that's what you want to avoid. If you have a bad day, a bad workout, or whatever, just get back on the horse, stand back up. But winning streaks can happen too. And that's what we're always trying to fuel. And I always let clients know, like, hey, we're riding a wave of momentum. If there was ever a time in your life to be super selfish and to fucking have tunnel vision, it's right now. It's this period of tunnel vision that's going to leapfrog you X amount of space forward, because eventually there will be some stopping point or a plateau, or we have to pull, whatever the case may be. But when you're on that wave, it's like a surfer. When you're riding that wave, double down on it, because you only get so many of those waves throughout your career and whatever you're doing. You have to take advantage of them.
No, I agree. And the gratitude was a great point. I know we're going a little bit over, but I think we should speak about that on another podcast, because it's points like that aren't spoken about at all. And something as simple as gratitude can completely change the trajectory of somebody's day or moment or whatever it is. So that was a great point as well.
Yeah. So guys listening, drop your comments below. What are some things you do to help with your own self-belief? Some tactics you've developed over the years, some strategies you do take. What did you like about the video? Give us feedback. We're here to provide value. Coming at you every couple of weeks right now. To start, we're going to be getting some guests on here and there as well to just help fuel the how to develop a champion mindset and how to find the way. So for Tommy Stiles, or for Tom Cardone, I'm Tommy Stiles. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Till next time, we're out of here.